friend of mine. So his worst decision ever was hiring Broderick.
The final question he asks is a good one. He says, many guys hop on heavy cycles after a breakup or a difficult time in their life. This is so true, huh? In your opinion, is this a really bad idea, or could it be beneficial to get over through some tough shit?
Like getting on a cycle?
Yeah, like going through a really bad breakup and then going on a big cycle, he said, a heavy cycle.
Well, I always cycled, but when me and Ariella broke up, I said, I'm going to fucking do a show. I'm going to and dude, that shit, that should help. It helped for sure.
It helps to have a goal, and it also helps to have the resilience of that.
Yeah, it wasn't the drugs. It wasn't the drugs. It was just having a goal that you have to get to. You know what I mean?
You know, I've actually used this too. Now that I realize it, I've done that too. Because you know what happens sometimes? You'll break up and you want to be fit. So
that's
sometimes
what it is. You want to look good. If you look good, you feel good, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's so true. So there's a couple of reasons to do it. One is for the mental resilience. The other one is because you want to lose body fat and look great immediately. So that's true. So I've been there too. It can be, I think it can be dangerous if you do it while you're in a bad relationship. And maybe not for Boston because he doesn't get affected psychologically, but for some people, if you're in the end of a relationship, you don't want to go on trend maybe. You might have more issues.
Dude, like me and Ariel are super open about our relationship. I'll say something funny. When we were breaking up, we were both on hella gear, right? And we knew it was over. We were done. Yeah. But the day before she moved out, she we were fucking and shit. We were still having sex, but we were pissed at each other. I was showering with her, but we were pissed. You know what I mean? We'd be arguing, but we do. I was like, babe, we're still having sex tonight.
I'm glad it all worked out in the end. It's a good relationship. But so yeah, basically my advice would be, I've actually been through these kind of things. I think that if you use something that makes your mind unstable, honestly, Trenbolone, Nandrolone, and Equipoise, those are the three that may make you feel badly. Otherwise, it may really work well. I have a video called Testosterone for Resilience related to this. Ryan is Rhino says, hey Leo, you've said before that you used to train only for strength. What compounds do you think made your strength go up the most? So I think that question... He asked another question too, but I think that question doesn't make sense. So you train for strength at a movement. So if you train for the bench press all the time, it's not going to make your row that much more powerful. So I don't think that question makes sense. But then he says, in your opinion, then he says, what was the most you squatted, benched, and deadlifted? I don't know how much I benched. I was very bad at the bench, maybe 2.5 plates or something. I never did it much. When I was young, my shoulders would hurt whenever I did it, so I just stopped. I was very strong at pulling. So the most I ever pulled was 4 plates bent over row when I was 215 or so, properly. And I did that every week for a while. But for squatting and deadlifting, I squatted about 450 and deadlifted about almost 500, more than 4 plates in high school. And then I didn't work out for a few years, and then I did that naturally. That was naturally. Then I did it naturally again in my early 20s. Then I stopped deadlifting and squatting permanently. I got some knee problems when I was 23, so I never did it again. I deadlifted once when I was at my strongest for arm wrestling, and I did 580. That night, but I had not trained legs for years.
When you were powerlifting, did you have like people spank you and slap you and shit before your lifts, or no?
No, I was powerlifting in Dubai by myself. Nobody even knew what it was. They were looking at me in the gym like, what is this guy doing? This was 2004. No, but then I see Scott, bro. Scott gets slapped, punched.
But didn't you train with Scott a bit though?
Scott, no, I powerlifted with him a bit, like he was showing me movements and stuff, but I was too, he tried to convince me to do deadlifting, but I was too old for it in my opinion. But that guy, bro, whenever he does a geared lift at the gym, he's snorting stuff, people slapping him, all kinds of weird stuff are happening. Before his competitions, his wife used to come and slap him in front of everybody, and then he would go crazy. I don't know if you've seen that in his competitions.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, if you had people slap you and shit.
No, I don't do that. That's crazy though. Scott's a real monster though. You don't take him seriously until you see the weight that he's lifting. You're like, oh shit, okay, this is not all.
Does he have an anger issue or no?
Oh yeah, that's an accurate shit. Yeah, we talked about that briefly on the side. Yeah. Scott is like a gangster. He's like a Jewish gangster powerlifter in his mind. Yeah, he's just an alpha male to them. All right, so David Lamam says, "Can I use 23andMe to determine if I will be Ronnie Coleman?" I realize this is a joke, but you probably can realize if you're not going to be Ronnie Coleman. There's enough SNPs. 23andMe won't tell you, but there are some websites that do it. I don't know how well they do it. I'm going to make my own with Derek soon, but there are enough SNPs on 23andMe's genotype data. They only do 60 to 70% of your total genome. There's enough SNPs that if you're wrong on all of them, you're not going to be gifted. There's some power, endurance ones, muscle fiber stuff, breathing stuff, vascularity stuff.
I got all that done, Leo, with 23andMe.
So right now I'm working on putting the research that I did into algorithms so it can be done by a computer. Once we have it done, we'll put yours through each one. We're starting with the brain.
It said I had good kidney genetics. It said kidney disease does not run in my family.
I think they're talking about the APOL1 variant. They barely check anything.
That means I fucked myself.
No, you didn't. They just checked the APOL1 variant. Okay.
So, hey, when I explained to that doctor what happened to me, how I told him my creatinine jumped from 2 to 6, he was like, "It's 100%." He was like, "That would be an acute injury if it jumped that quick." And I'm like, he was just shocked that it didn't come down,
So he did think it was an acute injury, huh?
100%. Both doctors did.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
All right, so this question is from Lee Fraser. He says, taking a natural bodybuilder with average genetics, height is 5'9", weighing at 178 contest shape, then decided to come to you and wanted you to help them go all out on PEDs. So basically, he's an average natural bodybuilder, with also instructing him with diet, training, side enhancement. He has limited money. How much muscle do you feel like you could put on him in a year of your tutelage? Okay, I don't do this.
Drugs?
No, he's saying this guy wants to go all out on drugs, but he has limited money. He'll do a diet. You do his diet, training, side enhancement. How much muscle can you put on a guy that's 178 at 5'9" in a year? Obviously, this really depends on genetics. So let's think about this. What is the minimum, and what's the maximum that you've seen?
I would say the minimum would be 15 pounds if he's the minimum would be 15 pounds of muscle, and the maximum would be 30.
30, huh?
Maximum.
30 lean.
Yeah, because he's only 178. I think I can get him to like 210, 215, yeah.
Yeah, I bet so. That's true. I agree. Okay, McShake and Bake Falafel Cart says, is edible marijuana detrimental to bodybuilding? This is a good question. There's something said about its effects on REM sleep. How would I fare for someone who already has sleep issues? Okay, briefly on that. Marijuana may have more effects on bodybuilding than just sleep. It has some estrogenic effects, like it causes gynecomastia in some people. So there's something going on there. Also, I used to smoke weed all the time. And I know a lot of bodybuilders smoke weed, but if you're a power lifter and you smoke a joint before you go to workout, you will be weaker. Okay, so it's probably not great to smoke all day. I know. Yeah, they were commenting in the comment section that Ian Valliere recently said that he smokes every night before bed, 2 hours before bed. That's different. I think he's not consuming a lot of marijuana, and it's not affecting.
He's also taking exogenous hormones, so it's not going to affect him like that.
It probably has less effects on people who use steroids. The only thing, I've used steroids and marijuana at the same time. The only thing I would mention is his comment on REM sleep is absolutely correct. I know it's been popularized by Walker, but of all the drugs that I've looked at, marijuana seems to kill REM sleep the most. One of the most. And I used marijuana for years, and I've noticed it myself. The worst sleep I ever had in my life was when I was chain smoking joints and taking Trenbolone together. It was unbelievable. I used to wake up every 2 hours, just regularly.
Really?
I'd sleep over at my apartment. I'd be awake, like on the computer, come back to bed, go back, come back to bed. It was hectic. Then he says, is Tren Ace better than Tren E or Parabolan? The only difference is the change in ester and Parabolan being even longer acting. What do you think about that when people say Parabolan used to be way better than Tren A and E?
I just think the drugs back then were better in general, but I like using like Tren E like in off season sometimes, and then like Tren acetate getting closer to a show because I feel like there's less progesterone or prolactin buildup with a faster ester. I noticed that guys hold more fluid on Tren E. But
have you ever had like a factory made Tren Hex, or have you only had underground Tren Hex?
Yeah, so I've used Parabolin.
Oh, you have?
1.5 1.5 ml amps, 76.5 milligrams.
Yes.
And though, dude, you know why I like Parabolin so much is because you don't get the trend cough.
I don't know about the trend cough, but that stuff is made well. It's always made well. I mean, I had it in Dubai.
No cough. Like when it's made from Finaplex, which is Tren X, and there's no, because like all the other are variants, like Tren acetate, they have to take original Tren and they have to convert it. So Parabolin is Tren in its original form. So I love it. I love it a lot.
I've never had trend cough though, so I'm randomly invulnerable to that.
Yeah,
so,
Tren X, you won't get the cough.
Fascinating. All right, so Tim Tanevsky says, I know you guys don't like Broderick, but what about Alex Kickle? Wait a minute. We don't necessarily... I came across a new guy who I tried to introduce to Boston. His name is Victor the Thief Black. And Victor is worse than Broderick. So now I like Broderick. And it turns out Victor copies everything from Broderick and is worse than him. Way worse in every way, bro.
Friends? Are they friends?
Victor thinks he's his friend, but Broderick badmouths him publicly, and I found some people sent it to me. But anyway, so you're dealing with different kinds of shitty gurus. You know, what can you do? Alex Kickle, he seems extremely knowledgeable about biology, and I know he's friends with Boston. I don't know.
A friend of mine. So his worst decision ever was hiring Broderick. Yeah, Alex is like a brainiac. You and Alex would get along. You should probably get him on the podcast one time, actually, because you guys are like so into like the whole like science, right? And like Alex will love to talk about just science, and like I love Alex as a person. I don't agree with a lot of his bodybuilding or things, as well as he doesn't agree with a lot of the stuff I do. Like for instance, he took estrogen in prep with Broderick. Like I don't agree with that, and like he keeps his test at like 200 milligrams the whole prep, and then he takes like estrogen. He's never been in contest shape before, Alex, and I like somebody who can talk about science and all this shit, but then they could use it to themselves, because like Alex is a full-time bodybuilder, like he wants to look good, and so like Broderick is just a lazy bum, where Alex tries to actually. So Alex is a friend of mine as a person. That guy's awesome. Like there's nothing bad you could say about him. I just think that they overcomplicate things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, my approach with this is like, so just for the audience to understand, science is not science. Science is like, well, science is a lot of things, but you test things in labs. If the lab doesn't represent real life, it doesn't have what's called external validity. So it doesn't matter. What matters is how much what you test represents real life and how applicable it is. That's why in bodybuilding, I always defer to Boston, because what matters most is what works in real life, not what you think. You just theorize to get ideas, but if you've tested it doesn't work, that's it.
That's probably why a guy like Chad Nichols has been good with the top bodybuilders, is because he's not a science guy at all, dude. Like he doesn't know what does what, and he doesn't know any of that stuff, but he knows what works because he's done it. So I'd rather work with a coach that has experience firsthand with results than a guy that has tried everything, looks average, but just knows a bunch of shit on the internet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's why I called Chad on the video that I had with him the king of empiricism, the king of experience. And that's why also I was like hard on Broderick, is like, don't try to involve science when it's unnecessary, or miss the points of the science. You're talking about the shape of a molecule and not the receptor. It misses the whole point. There's no reason to talk about it. And that's why I sent some.
But do you think he does that for marketing?
Yes, that's why I sensed it. That's why I got so upset. It's clearly marketing. Clearly marketing.